The helicopter rotors beat rhythmically against the thin mountain air as Elena Rodriguez checked her equipment one final time before insertion into the Afghan wilderness. After 18 months with SEAL Team 7, including 2 previous deployments, she had finally received the orders she had been working toward her entire career. Acceptance into Scout Sniper School followed by assignment as the team's primary long-range precision specialist. The mission briefing that morning had been straightforward but challenging. Intelligence reports indicated that a high-value target, Taliban commander Nazir Ahmad, was operating from a compound in the remote Khyber province. Ahmad was responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces and had been linked to several improvised explosive device incidents that had killed American and Afghan soldiers over the past 6 months. The target compound is situated on a ridgeline approximately 12 kilometers from our insertion point. Lieutenant Commander James Morrison, the new team leader, explained while pointing to aerial photographs spread across the briefing table. Traditional assault approaches are not viable due to the defensive positioning and civilian presence in the area. This will be a precision engagement mission. Elena studied the photographs and topographical maps, automatically calculating angles, distances, and environmental factors that would affect a long-range shot. The target area was situated at an elevation of approximately 8,500 feet above sea level, significantly higher than most of her previous operational experience. The thin air at that altitude would affect bullet trajectory in ways she had studied but never experienced in actual combat conditions. Chief Petty Officer David Chun, who served as the team's intelligence specialist, provided additional details about the target and operational environment. Nazir Ahmad is a former Afghan army officer who joined the Taliban after coalition forces withdrew from the region. He's experienced, well-trained, and extremely cautious about his security. Our window of opportunity will be limited, probably no more than a few minutes when he moves between buildings in the compound. The helicopter insertion went smoothly despite challenging weather conditions and mountainous terrain. Elena and her 5-man team established their hide site on a rocky outcropping that provided clear observation of the target area while remaining concealed from enemy forces. The distance from their position to the target compound measured exactly 2,380 meters according to Elena's laser rangefinder. Setting up her precision rifle, a customized M40A 6-chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum, Elena began the methodical process of environmental data collection that would be critical for an accurate shot at extreme range. She recorded wind speed and direction at multiple points between her position and the target, noting how the mountain terrain created complex air currents that changed throughout the day. Wind is shifting pretty significantly between here and the target, she reported to Lieutenant Commander Morrison through her headset. I'm seeing 8 to 12 mile-per-hour crosswinds with gusts up to 18. The mountain valleys are creating thermal updrafts that will affect bullet trajectory. Morrison nodded, understanding the complexity of the shot Elena was being asked to make. What's your assessment of the engagement possibility? Elena continued her calculations, factoring in the temperature differential between their current position and the target area, the barometric pressure at their current altitude, and the angle of the shot, which would be firing downward at approximately a 7-degree angle. It's challenging, but doable, she replied after several minutes of calculation. I'll need at least a 10-second window where the target is stationary, and I'll need to time the shot to coincide with a lull in the crosswind. The margin for error is essentially zero at this range. The team settled in for what could be a long wait. Intelligence reports suggested that Ahmad typically moved between buildings in the compound during the late morning hours, but there was no guarantee he would follow his usual patterns. Elena used the waiting time to continue refining her environmental data and making minute adjustments to her rifle scope. Through her high-powered spotting scope, she could observe the compound in detail. The main building was a traditional Afghan construction with thick walls and small windows. Several outbuildings provided storage and living space for Ahmed's security team. Most concerning from an operational standpoint was the presence of women and children in the compound, requiring Elena to be absolutely certain of her target identification before taking any shot. At 1,047 hours, movement in the compound caught Elena's attention. Several armed men emerged from the main building and took up security positions around a smaller structure approximately 50 meters away. This was consistent with the pattern intelligence analysts had predicted for Ahmed's movements. "I've got movement in the compound," Elena reported quietly into her radio. "Multiple individuals establishing security positions. This could be our window." Chief Chun, serving as Elena's spotter, focused his high-powered optics on the compound and began calling out details that would help Elena track potential targets. "I count 6 security personnel, all armed with AK-47 variants. They're establishing a perimeter around the secondary building. Target individual has not yet appeared." Elena adjusted her rifle position slightly and controlled her breathing as she had been trained to do before taking any precision shot. Her heart rate, which had been elevated during the approach and setup phase, settled into the steady rhythm she had learned to use as a natural timing mechanism for her shots. At 1052 hours, a figure emerged from the main building that matched the description and photographs of Nazir Ahmad. He was dressed in traditional Afghan clothing but carried himself with the military bearing that intelligence reports had described. Elena tracked him through her scope as he walked toward the secondary building. "Positive identification on target individual," Chief Chun confirmed after studying the figure through his spotting scope. "Height and build match intelligence descriptions. Distinctive facial scarring on left side consistent with target photos." Elena centered her crosshairs on the target and began her final calculations. The distance was 2,380 meters, the longest shot she had ever attempted in combat conditions. Wind speed had decreased to approximately 10 miles per hour with a slight quartering headwind that would push her bullet slightly left and slow its velocity. Temperature differential and barometric pressure calculations indicated she needed to aim approximately 18 inches high and 14 inches right to compensate for environmental factors. "I have a clear shot," Elena reported to Lieutenant Commander Morrison. "Target is stationary. Wind conditions are within acceptable parameters. Request permission to engage." There was a pause on the radio that seemed to last much longer than the few seconds it actually took for Morrison to respond. "Rodriguez, that's an extremely long shot under difficult conditions. Are you confident you can make the engagement without risk to civilian personnel in the area?" Elena had been expecting this question and had already considered all the factors involved. "Affirmative, sir. Target is isolated from other individuals. Wind conditions are stable, and I have a clear line of sight with no obstructions. Shot probability is high." Another pause, longer this time. Elena could sense the weight of decision-making in Morrison's delay. This would be the longest confirmed engagement in their unit's history, attempted by the first female sniper they had ever deployed. The implications of success or failure extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation. "Rodriguez, I'm going to have to deny the shot request. Distance is too great. Conditions are too variable. We'll wait for a closer opportunity or find an alternative approach." Elena felt her stomach drop. Through her scope, she could see Ahmad beginning to move toward the secondary building. In another few seconds, he would be inside, and the opportunity would be lost. All her training, all her preparation, all the hours studying ballistics and environmental factors had led to this moment, and she was being told to stand down. "Sir, respectfully, this is the shot. Conditions are as good as they're going to get, and the target is presenting a clear opportunity. I can make this shot." "Negative, Rodriguez. Too much risk, too many variables. We'll find another way." Elena watched through her scope as Ahmad reached the entrance to the secondary building. In her earpiece, she could hear radio chatter as the team began discussing alternative approaches and the possibility of moving to a closer position for a future engagement. But Elena knew from studying the terrain and intelligence reports that another opportunity like this might not present itself for weeks or months. The target paused at the entrance to the building, turning to speak with one of his security personnel. Elena had her crosshairs centered on his chest, her breathing controlled, her calculations complete. Every aspect of the shot was within acceptable parameters for a successful engagement. What happened next would define the rest of Elena's career and change how the military viewed female snipers in combat operations. In a split-second decision that violated direct orders, but demonstrated the warrior mentality that had driven her to excel throughout her career, Elena made a choice that prioritized mission success over protocol. She pulled the trigger. The .338 Lapua Magnum cartridge left the barrel of Elena's rifle at approximately 2,800 feet per second. The bullet would travel for nearly 3 seconds before reaching its target, covering a distance that represented the absolute limit of precision rifle capabilities under field conditions. During those 3 seconds, Elena tracked the target through her scope, while Chief Chun used his spotting scope to observe bullet impact. The bullet struck Nazir Ahmad's center mass, exactly where Elena had aimed. The impact was immediately fatal, and the target collapsed outside the entrance to the secondary building. His security personnel initially took cover, thinking they were under assault from multiple positions, giving Elena and her the morning sun cast long shadows across the Afghan mountains as Staff Sergeant Elena Rodriguez adjusted her scope for the third time. 2 miles away, through the shimmering heat waves rising from the rocky terrain, her target moved with the confidence of a man who believed himself untouchable. The Taliban commander had been planning attacks on coalition forces for months, and today, he would finally face justice. But it wasn't the distance that made this shot nearly impossible. It wasn't even the crosswinds gusting at 15 miles per hour across the valley. It was the voice crackling through her earpiece, her own commanding officer telling her to stand down. Rodriguez, negative on the shot. Too far, too risky. We'll find another way. She had trained for this moment her entire career. Every hour on the range, every simulation, every sleepless night studying ballistics tables had led to this single moment. But now, with the perfect opportunity in front of her, the one person who should have trusted her skills the most was telling her she couldn't make it. What happened next would not only prove her doubters wrong, but would also rewrite the record books and change how the military viewed women in combat roles forever. This is the true story of the longest confirmed sniper kill by a female soldier. A shot that traveled 2,400 meters through impossible conditions to find its mark, and the woman who refused to let anyone tell her what she couldn't do. Elena Rodriguez had always been different from other kids growing up in the small Texas town of Del Rio. While her friends played with dolls and dreamed of becoming teachers or nurses, Elena spent her afternoons in her grandfather's garage, learning to take apart and rebuild hunting rifles. Her grandfather, Miguel Rodriguez, was a Vietnam veteran who had served as a Marine Scout sniper, and he saw something special in his granddaughter that others missed. Mija, he would say in his weathered voice, holding up a rifle cartridge to the light. Shooting isn't about the gun. It's about understanding the world around you. The wind, the temperature, the way the earth curves beneath your feet. Most people see a target. A real shooter sees everything else. Elena absorbed these lessons like a sponge. By the age of 12, she could consistently hit targets at 300 yards with her grandfather's old bolt-action rifle. By 15, she was competing in state-level shooting competitions and winning against adults who had been shooting for decades. But it wasn't just her natural ability that set her apart. It was her mind for mathematics and physics that made her truly exceptional. Her high school physics teacher, Mrs. Catherine Wells, noticed Elena's unique combination of analytical thinking and steady hands during their unit on projectile motion. While other students struggled with the basic concepts, Elena was calculating bullet drop, wind drift, and atmospheric pressure effects in her head. She could visualize the invisible forces acting on a projectile in flight, understanding instinctively what took others years to learn. Have you ever considered the military? Mrs. Wells asked Elena one afternoon after class. Specifically, the Marines or Navy. They have programs for people with your particular set of skills. Elena had thought about the military before, but mostly in abstract terms. Her grandfather rarely talked about his time in Vietnam, except to share the technical aspects of long-range shooting. She knew he had been good at his job, but she also sensed the weight he carried from those years. The idea of following in his footsteps both excited and terrified her. That evening, Elena approached her grandfather while he was cleaning his rifles in the garage. The familiar smell of gun oil and leather filled the air as she watched his practiced hands work over the bolt assembly of his favorite hunting rifle. "Grandpa, Mrs. Wells thinks I should consider the military. She says they need people who can shoot like me." Miguel's hands stopped moving for a moment. He looked up at his granddaughter, seeing not the 12-year-old girl who had first picked up a rifle, but a young woman who had surpassed even his own abilities. He had been waiting for this conversation, knowing it would come eventually. The military will teach you things I never could, Elena. They'll push you harder than you've ever been pushed, and they'll show you what you're truly capable of. But it's not a game. When you pull that trigger in combat, it's not a paper target on the other end. Elena nodded, understanding the gravity in his words. I know, Grandpa, but I also know I'm good at this. Really good. And if I can use that to protect people, to make a difference, shouldn't I try? Miguel smiled, seeing his own determination reflected in her eyes. Then, you'll need to be better than really good, Mija. You'll need to be perfect. Over the next 2 years, Elena's training intensified. Her grandfather introduced her to concepts she had never encountered before. Shooting in extreme weather conditions, calculating for different altitudes and barometric pressures, and, most importantly, developing the mental discipline required for precision shooting under stress. They would drive to remote areas of the Texas desert, where Miguel would set up challenging scenarios. He would make her run 2 miles carrying a full pack, then immediately take precision shots at targets over 800 yards away. He taught her to read wind patterns by watching grass, dust, and even the behavior of insects. He showed her how to use her heartbeat as a natural timing mechanism, firing during the brief pause between heartbeats when the human body is most stable. In combat, he explained during one particularly grueling training session, you won't have the luxury of perfect conditions. You'll be tired, stressed, possibly injured. The enemy won't wait for you to get comfortable. You need to make the shot when the opportunity presents itself, regardless of the circumstances. Elena's senior year of high school was marked by college recruitment letters and scholarship offers from shooting programs across the country. She had set multiple state records in precision rifle competitions and had caught the attention of Olympic development coaches. But her mind was already made up. 2 weeks after graduation, she walked into the Navy recruitment office in San Antonio and announced her intention to enlist. The recruiter, Petty Officer First Class James Mitchell, had seen many young people walk through his doors over the years, but few with Elena's quiet confidence and obvious physical fitness. When she mentioned her shooting background and expressed interest in special operations, he took notice. Special operations is extremely competitive, he explained. Less than 10% of people who try out actually make it through the program. For women, the numbers are even lower because of the physical demands and because many of the combat roles have only recently been opened to female personnel. Elena leaned forward in her chair. What would I need to do to qualify for sniper training? Petty Officer Mitchell pulled out a thick folder of documentation. First, you'd need to complete basic training and advanced individual training. Then, you'd need to volunteer for and complete basic underwater demolition/SEAL training, which has a failure rate of about 80%. After that, if you're selected, you could apply for Scout Sniper School, which has its own selection process and training program. The timeline he described would take nearly 3 years, assuming Elena succeeded at every step. Most recruits who started the process never made it past basic SEAL training. The physical and mental demands were designed to eliminate all but the most exceptional candidates. I understand it's difficult, Elena said calmly, but I believe I can do it. I've been preparing for this my whole life. 8 weeks later, Elena found herself at Naval Station Great Lakes in Illinois, beginning the transformation from civilian teenager to Navy sailor. Basic training was exactly as challenging as she had expected, but in different ways than she had prepared for. The physical demands were significant, but manageable for someone who had spent years conditioning her body for precision athletics. The mental challenges were more subtle, but equally important. Her drill instructor, Petty Officer Second Class Maria Santos, recognized Elena's potential early in the training cycle. Santos had served 2 deployments in Afghanistan and understood what it took to succeed in combat environments. She saw in Elena not just physical capability, but the mental toughness that separated successful operators from those who washed out under pressure. Rodriguez, Santos called out during week 4 of training. You've got good scores across the board, but I want to understand what you're really here for. What's your ultimate goal in the Navy? Elena stood at attention, staring straight ahead as she had been trained. Petty Officer Santos, my goal is to become a Navy SEAL sniper and serve in special operations units. Santos nodded slowly. She had heard similar statements from dozens of recruits over the years, but something in Elena's voice suggested this wasn't just youthful bravado. That's a tough road, Rodriguez. You prepared for that level of commitment? Yes, Petty Officer Santos. I've been training for this opportunity my entire life. After basic training, Elena was assigned to advanced technical training at Naval Air Station Pensacola in Florida. Her military occupational specialty was designated as Intelligence Specialist, a rating that would give her the security clearances and analytical background necessary for special operations work. The training was intensive, covering everything from foreign language basics to advanced computer systems, but Elena thrived in the academic environment. Her instructors noted her exceptional performance in courses related to target analysis and battlefield assessment. She demonstrated an intuitive understanding of how to process multiple streams of information and synthesize them into actionable intelligence. These skills would prove crucial in her later sniper training, where the ability to quickly assess and adapt to changing conditions could mean the difference between mission success and failure. During her off-duty hours, Elena continued her shooting practice at the base range. Word of her abilities spread quickly among the training staff, and she was soon invited to participate in inter-service shooting competitions. Her performance in these events caught the attention of several special operations recruiters who were always looking for exceptional talent. Chief Petty Officer David Reynolds, a SEAL team veteran with 15 years of experience, approached Elena after watching her dominate a long-range precision rifle competition against experienced military shooters from multiple branches. Petty Officer Rodriguez, I've been watching your performance, and I think you might have what it takes for our community. Are you still interested in trying out for SEAL training? Elena had been waiting for this opportunity for months. Absolutely, Chief. That's why I'm here. Chief Reynolds studied her for a moment, noting the quiet confidence that reminded him of the best operators he had served with. SEAL training isn't like anything you've experienced before. We're going to test every aspect of your character, your physical capabilities, and your mental toughness. A lot of people who think they want this find out they don't actually want it when they're in the middle of it. Elena nodded. I understand, Chief. I'm ready for the challenge. What Elena didn't fully understand yet was that her journey to become a Navy SEAL sniper would test not just her shooting skills and physical endurance, but her ability to prove herself in a community that had never had a female sniper before. She would face doubters at every level, from fellow trainees who questioned whether a woman could handle the physical demands, to instructors who wondered if she possessed the killer instinct necessary for combat operations. But Elena Rodriguez was not easily deterred. She had spent years preparing for this moment, guided by her grandfather's wisdom and driven by her own determination to excel. As she prepared to enter the most challenging phase of her military career, she carried with her the memory of countless hours on the range, the steady voice of her grandfather teaching her to see beyond the target, and the unwavering belief that she belonged among the elite ranks of America's Special Operations Forces. The young woman from Del Rio, Texas, who had grown up taking apart rifles in her grandfather's garage, was about to embark on a journey that would ultimately lead to a shot heard around the military world, a shot that would prove once and for all that excellence knows no gender, and that the most dangerous weapon